We are on Lesson 3.1 Independent Practice. This is page 51. Do the best job that you can on answering these questions without the help of the video. Play the video when you need hints or when you need to check your answer. Directions. List two numbers that fit each description, then write the numbers in the appropriate location on the Venn diagram. So the first thing we got to say is the answers are going to vary on this. Answers vary. What that means is I'll provide some answers. It doesn't mean these are the right answers. If you need me to check your answers, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll come over and check your answers for you. Question 8 reads, integers that are not whole numbers. So a whole number would be something like 8, and that would go in the whole number. An integer would be something like -8. Or something like -55 or something like that. Those are both integers, but they're not whole numbers. And number 9 reads, rational numbers that are not integers. So a number here that's going to be a rational number, but it's not an integer. So these are the numbers that are like fractions and decimals and something like that, or a mixed number. I could do 5 and 1/4. That is a rational number. And it's not an integer. Or I could do something like 0.75. 75 hundredths. That's a rational number. That's not an integer. Okay, make sure your answers look like mine. Or if you need help, like I said, raise your hand and ask the teacher. All right, let's move on. All right, let's check out number 10. A nature club is having its weekly hike. The table shows how many pieces of fruit and bottles of water each member of the club brought to share. And you'll see the 4 different members, and they each brought some fruit and water. And A says, if the hikers want to share the fruit evenly, how many pieces should each person receive? So the first thing you need to do is figure out the total. And they don't really give you room for that, but you could squeeze it in. You could figure out the total. How much total fruit is there? Well, there are 3 plus 2, that's 5. And if I go down to this 5 right here, 5 plus 5 is 10, plus this 4 is 14. There's 14 total pieces of fruit. You need to know that. And let's go back and reread question 8. If the hikers want to share the fruit evenly, that means divide. So we're going to take those 14 pieces of fruit, and we're going to divide them by 4 people. So we can write it as a fraction. We haven't really explained this super well, but you can write a division problem as a fraction. 14 pieces of fruit divided by 4 people. And that's actually kind of a good enough answer, but most kids would want to rewrite that as 4 goes into 14 3 whole times with 2 left over, 3 and 2/4. And then most kids know that 3 and 2/4 would simplify. 2/4 simplifies to a half, so it's 3.5. Now it's not just 3.5, it's 3.5 pieces of fruit per person. I'm going to do 3.5 pieces per person. Perfect. Let's move on. Question B reads, which hikers received more fruit than they brought on the hike? Well, if they each received 3.5, Baxter brought 3, he received 3.5, that's more. So Baxter's one of the answers. And then Hendrik, he brought 2, but he receives 3.5. 3.5 is more than 2. So Hendrik is one of the answers. Before I write that, though, let's go check. What about Mary? Mary brought 4, and she only received 3.5. She received less than she brought. Kendra, too. She brought 5, but she received 3.5. That's less. So there's 2 answers for question B. It's Baxter and Hendrik, because they each brought a number that's less than 3.5. All right, question C. The hikers want to share their water evenly so that each member has the same amount. How much water does each hiker receive? It's the same idea as what we did with the fruit. They're going to take all the bottles of water, they're going to put them in a big pile, and then they're going to divide them evenly. So first things first, you got to figure out how much water they brought. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 3 is 10, plus 7 is 17. How much water did they bring total? 17 bottles. So what we do here is we take 17 bottles of water and we divide it by the 4 people. That's 17 over 4. And then we do the division. 4 goes into 17 4 times with 1 left over. 4 and 1/4. And so it's 4 and 1/4 bottles per person. Now some kids would say, you can't take a bottle of water and cut it up. Well, you wouldn't cut it up, but you can pour it out and divide it evenly. So they would each receive 4 full bottles, and then there would be 1 left over that they could divide 4 ways. So 4 1/4 is a reasonable answer. All right, if you got any of those wrong, just fix them as needed. Let's check out the bottom of the page. Question number 11. Sherman has 3 cats and 2 dogs. He wants to buy a toy for each of his pets. It's really important to notice that they took the cats and the dogs and they combined them into one word called pets. How many pets is that? It's really important to notice that they gave you information like this, cats and dogs, and then they changed it to pets. He has 5 pets. Sherman has $22 to spend on pet toys. How much can he spend on each pet? Well, this is another division problem that we're going to write as an improper fraction, where he has $22 and he's going to divide that $22 by the 5 pets. And if you want to, you can even put the signs here. $22 divided by 5 pets. And so what we do here is we convert that. It's an improper fraction, but we're going to rewrite it as a mixed number. 5 goes into 22 4 times. And there's 2 left over because 5 times 4 is 20, so there's 2 left over, 5 2/5. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because it says write your answer as a fraction, which we've done. This is good. This is our first answer. And it says, and as an amount in dollars and cents. Now, how much money is this? Well, this is easy right here. 4 is $4. So 4 2/5 is the same as $4, but now I got to figure out the cents. $4 and blank cents. So I've got 2/5 of a dollar, and this is just the tiniest bit tricky to understand. I'm going to draw a picture of it over here, okay? This right here I'm going to draw a picture of, and this is $1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this dollar into fifths because it says 2/5. So watch what I do here. And it's not going to be a perfect sketch, but it's going to be okay. All right, so this is $1. I'm separated into fifths, and then it says we have 2/5. So I'm going to shade in 2 of those. 1, 2. So this right here is, I guess I can put 1/5. It doesn't matter. I can put 1/5 on each of them. I could do this right here. 1/5, 1/5. But I'm really going to want to erase that in just a second because I'm trying to figure out the dollars and cents. So what do I need to do in order to figure out how much money each of those chunks represents? I just need to ask myself, if I took $1 and divided it 5 ways, how much money is in each chunk? And it's going to be 20 cents. $1 divided by 5 is 20 cents each. Now, why did I do all that? Well, because 2/5 would be 20 cents for 1/5 and 20 cents for the next fifth. How much money is that? It's 40 cents. So the answer is $4.40. You could check that on a calculator simply by doing $22 divided by 5 pets is 4.4. That's the same thing as $4.40. So that last part was a little bit tricky. I hope you understand how I explained that to you. All right, 2 more questions here. Number 12. A group of 5 friends are sharing 2 pounds of trail mix. Write a division problem and a fraction to represent this situation. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do this right and wrong next to each other. I'm going to let you choose which is which. Should we take 5 friends, I'm going to do FR for friends, and divide that by 2 pounds of trail mix. I'm going to put a TM for trail mix. Or should we take 2 pounds of trail mix and divide it by 5 friends? Well, I'm going to show you why this one should make more sense. This is wrong. I'm going to change to red and put this is wrong here. I didn't change to red, but that's okay. Now, some kids would look at this and say that doesn't make sense, Mr. Smith. But it really does make sense because this is just like the blocks of clay and the friends problem that we did previously. 2 over 5, or 2 fraction 5 would be 2 divided by 5. And 2 becomes the numerator. 5 becomes the denominator. You get 2/5, and it's 2/5 of a pound of trail mix. So I'm going to put 2/5 of a pound. Now, if you did it the other way, and there's 2 answers here because it asks for 2 things. It says write a division problem and a fraction. So I'm going to put a highlighter around our 2 answers. There's our division problem, and there's our fraction. Now let's go back to this one over here in red. Then I'm going to cross off here. And let's talk about why that's wrong. If we did 5 divided by 2, we would be taking those 5 friends and splitting those 5 friends up among 2 pounds of trail mix, which doesn't make sense. But if we did, even if we just did 5 divided by 2, we would get 2.5. 2 goes into 5 twice, with one left over, 2.5. Would those 5 friends each get 2.5 pounds of trail mix? No, that doesn't make sense because we started with 2 pounds of trail mix. How could all 5 of them each get 2.5 pounds? So that's an example of how sometimes you're going to maybe set it up backwards, but then you would just use common sense to check. All right, vocabulary question number 13. A blank diagram can represent sets visually. That is a Venn diagram. Change back to black. And Venn is capital V because it's the name of a person who invented it. A Venn diagram. Okay, we are done with page 51. Great job.